Welcome back to the deep dive. So today I want to start by asking you to just picture a map of the Horn of Africa.
Okay.
If you look at Ethiopia, you see this demographic giant, right? Over 120 million people, an economy that's digitizing really, really fast. But you also see a huge geographical problem.
They're landlocked.
They're landlocked.
Mhm.
And in the world of telecommunications, that is uh, a very tricky place to be.
It's a precarious position, yeah. I mean, your entire digital life depends on your neighbors.
Exactly. When you're on the coast, you just run a cable into the ocean, you're done. You hook into the global submarine network. But when you're landlocked, you need someone to hold that door open for you.
And that's the key context for what we're talking about today.
It is. We're looking at a high-level strategic summit between two massive players, Ethio telecom and Somcable.
Right, and on the surface, this just looks like, standard corporate diplomacy. But when you start to peel back the layers, it's really a masterclass in geopolitical strategy and infrastructure resilience.
It is. We've analyzed the report from this meeting, and it's not just about two CEOs shaking hands.
No.
This is about securing a digital lifeline.
Okay.
So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how these two companies are trying to re-engineer the connectivity map of East Africa. It's not just about faster internet. It's about strategic autonomy.
And it's about diversification. Anyone who follows the tech sector in the region knows that right now, reliability and redundancy are basically the only currency that matter.
Okay, so let's get into the room where this all happened. It was a delegation from Somcable, and they traveled to meet with the leadership at Ethio Telecom.
And just looking at the list of who was there, yeah, this was not a get-to-know-you coffee meeting.
No way. You had Friwat Tamru, who's the CEO of Ethio Telecom.
Right, and for people who haven't followed her career, she's been steering that company through probably its most transformative period ever. I mean, going from a state monopoly to suddenly facing competition from giants like Safaricom.
A huge job. And then sitting across the table, you have the top brass from Somcable, Chairman Mohammed Said Gwedi and CEO Mohammed Ibrahim Abed.
In having both the chairman and the CEO there, that's a major signal.
What does that signal to you?
It says they have the authority to make big, capital-intensive decisions right there in the room. You have to remember, Somcable holds the keys to the Berbera landing station.
Which is one of the most critical gateways for internet traffic coming into that whole region.
Exactly. From the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, it's a critical choke point.
So the agenda, according to the report, was about enhancing cross-border cooperation and accelerating digital growth in international markets. That's a lot of corporate speak.
It is, but in this specific context, international markets mean something very, very specific.
Go on.
Well, for Ethio Telecom, international used to be a defensive game. Handling incoming calls, incoming data. What we're seeing here is a shift. It's an offensive strategy. They want to extend their network's influence beyond their own borders.
And for Somcable,
It's about volume. It has to be. They have the coastal access, but they need Ethiopia's massive customer base to really make those big infrastructure investments pay off.
it's a classic symbiotic relationship. But I was really struck by the tone of Ethio Telecom's presentation during this meeting. Friwat Temru didn't just, ask for more bandwidth.
No, she pitched their institutional capacity.
That's such an interesting flex, right?
Yeah.
Usually telcos boast about their 5G coverage or how much fiber they have, but institutional capacity, that seems aimed at a totally different concern.
It is. She's addressing the reliability concern head-on. By saying that, she's signaling to Somcable, look, we are not the slow, state-run utility we were 10 years ago. We have the governance, the teams, the ability to execute. We can be a serious partner.
And she bundled this all into their big new strategy, which has a pretty catchy name.
It does.
Next Horizon.
Yeah.
Digital and Beyond 2028.
And it's that 2028 timeline that really jumps out at me.
It's a 5-year window. I mean, in the software world, that's an eternity, but for major infrastructure projects, that's actually pretty tight.
It's very aggressive. But it lines up with Ethiopia's broader national goals for digital transformation. They're in a race to digitize everything. Government services, banking, you name it.
And that phrase, digital and beyond, that implies they're moving up the stack. It's not just about being the pipe anymore.
Exactly. They want to be the platform.
But to be the platform, you need near-perfect uptime. Your whole fintech sector can't just go dark because one cable somewhere got cut.
Precisely. And that's why Somcable's reaction was so positive. The report says they commended the transformation. They called Ethio Telecom a leading operator in Africa.
So they're buying what she's selling.
It seems so. It validates that Ethio Telecom's internal reforms are actually being noticed by their peers. Somcable sees a partner who can handle the sheer volume of traffic they want to push through that pipe.
Chairman Gwede talked about a shared ambition for Africa's digital future, which sounds nice, but I can't help but read that as a shared ambition for, regional dominance.
Well, it certainly challenges the status quo. For a very long time, Djibouti has been the main hub for connectivity into Ethiopia.
Sometimes the only hub.
Right. So by strengthening this route through Somaliland with Somcable, Ethiopia is creating competition. It solves what you could call the Djibouti dilemma with diversification.
It's pure leverage. If you have it 2 doors to the ocean, you can negotiate much better rates at both of them.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts of what they actually agreed to do, because strategy is one thing, but, actual work is another. The report says they agreed to upgrade the current international internet capacity lease.
Yeah, this is the low-hanging fruit. They already had a connection. Upgrading the lease just means they're lighting up more capacity on the fiber that's already there.
So they're just turning up the volume dial.
Pretty much. It's a quick win.
But the more complicated piece mentioned is infrastructure sharing. Now, for anyone who knows the industry, sharing infrastructure across a border sounds like a regulatory nightmare.
It can be. You've got different laws, different standards, different data sovereignty rules.
But how do they navigate that? What does that even mean in this context?
Well, it likely means they're trying to move beyond just passive sharing, like, using the same tower or the same trench for fiber. It sounds like they're trying for active network integration, meaning they're trying to harmonize their networks so that the traffic handoff at the border is seamless.
So it's less like a toll booth and more like a continuous highway.
That's the idea in theory. It cuts down latency, which is absolutely critical for things like financial services or real-time cloud applications. If every packet of data has to get stopped and rerouted at the border, you lose your competitive edge.
And we know Somcable has a very clear end game here. They stated explicitly they want to position Somaliland as a key hub for regional and international connectivity.
And they're playing to their geographic strengths. Berbera is right near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, where a massive percentage of the world's subsea cables pass by. Somcable's plan is to catch those cables, bring that data ashore, and then fire that capacity straight inland to Ethiopia.
It's the classic Singapore strategy, isn't it? You don't necessarily produce the goods, but you control the port. And in this case, the goods are data.
It is. But for that to work, they need a huge demand center to consume all that data, and that's Ethiopia. Without Ethio Telecom as a major customer, Somcable has a giant pipe that just leads to a relatively small domestic market.
So they need the next horizon strategy to succeed just as much as Ethio Telecom does.
They have real skin in the game. It's a deep interdependence.
We'll push on one other thing they listed, digital services. Usually these deals are all about the physical layer, the cables, the hardware, but talking about digital services sounds like application level stuff.
And that's the beyond part of digital and beyond 2028.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If they're collaborating on services, that could mean things like cross-border mobile money working together seamlessly, or maybe shared cloud hosting environments.
Which would be huge for trade. If a merchant in Hargeisa can use a digital wallet that just works with Telebur in Ethiopia, you just lubricated the whole regional economy.
And that's the unlocking human potential part that the Somcable CEO, Mohammed Ibrahim Ahmed, was talking about.
Let's look at that quote. He said, "It is a collaborative commitment to harnessing technology to unlock human potential across Ethiopia and contribute to a more connected and prosperous Africa." It's a very grand statement.
It is, but I don't think it's just empty rhetoric here.
Why not?
Because in this part of the world, human potential is directly limited by connectivity. You have this massive young, educated population that just can't get access to the global digital economy. If you can stabilize the internet and lower the cost of data through partnerships like this one, you're not just letting people watch videos, you're enabling things like business process outsourcing, you're enabling remote work.
That's a great point. The BPO sector is booming elsewhere in Africa. You look at Kenya, Rwanda. Ethiopia wants in on that. But you can't run a dev shop or a call center if your internet connection is unreliable.
You definitely can't compete on a global scale. And that's what Ethio Telecom said in their closing statement. They want to compete in the global digital economy. That's a very different tone from just, we want to provide access to our citizens.
It is. It's the difference between a utility mindset and a true competitor mindset.
Hmm.
But can they actually pull it off? Can they compete globally?
That's the big question. I mean, competing globally means you're up against Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud. These giants are building their own cables. But Ethio Telecom does have a home field advantage.
Which is?
Data sovereignty. The laws are getting stricter everywhere. More and more nations want their data stored locally or at least regionally.
So Ethio Telecom and Somcable could position themselves as the trusted local stewards of data for the Horn of Africa.
Exactly. The pitch is, keep your data here with us on our secure, redundant network instead of sending it to a server in Frankfurt or Virginia. That's a very viable business model.
Let's circle back to the resilience part, because I think that's maybe the most critical takeaway.
Yeah.
We all know terrestrial cables get cut all the time, construction, floods, whatever. How does this partnership actually help with that risk?
It creates a mesh network, or at least the beginning of one. If Ethiopia only relies on the route through Djibouti, a single backhoe digging in the wrong place could isolate the country.
Right.
By building up the second robust route through Somaliland, they create what's called a ring topology. If the north route fails, traffic can automatically reroute through the east.
It's basic network design, but on the scale of a nation-state.
It is, and it's something big international investors look for. You won't get a company like Microsoft setting up a regional headquarters in Addis if you don't have that level of redundancy. This deal is basically an insurance policy for Ethiopia's entire digital economy.
It de-risks the market. Now, on Somcable's side, there's a validation aspect here too, isn't there? Chairman Guidi said he was proud to engage with a major operator.
Oh, absolutely, both politically and economically. Somaliland operates in a very unique diplomatic space. So for a state-owned giant like Ethio Telecom to engage this publicly and strategically with Somcable, it validates Somaliland's status as a stable and reliable place to do business.
It sends a message.
It sends a message that business logic is driving this relationship no matter what the broader political complexities are in the Horn of Africa.
And beta, like money, tends to follow the path of least resistance.
And the path of greatest stability. Somcable has proven they can keep the lights on. That makes them an essential partner for Ethio Telecom's 2028 vision.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize all this.
Yeah.
You have Ethio Telecom, a landlocked giant, finally waking up to the critical need for redundancy and international expansion.
And you have Somcable, a coastal operator holding the keys to the subsea kingdom, who desperately needs a massive market to sell all that capacity to.
They come together. They agree to not just widen the pipe they already have, but start integrating their networks and services much more deeply than ever before.
And the potential result is a new digital center of gravity for East Africa, one that's less reliant on a single point of failure and is much more competitive and resilient.
Which, at the end of the day, should drive down costs and drive up reliability for everyone.
And that's the foundation you need for all the talk about unlocking human potential and real economic growth.
It's a really fascinating case study in how telecom infrastructure is, in a way, geopolitics. You simply can't be a regional power if you're digitally isolated.
And you can't be a global competitor if you're digitally vulnerable. This partnership is an attempt to address both of those things at once.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought, going back to that 2028 timeline. If this next horizon strategy actually works, if we see real infrastructure sharing and service integration.
The mesh becomes a reality.
Right. And if data starts flowing seamlessly between Ethiopia and Somaliland, with no latency penalty, no friction at the border, does that digital integration start to force other kinds of integration?
That's historically been the pattern. First come the railroads, then the telegraphs, now it's fiber optic cables. Economic integration very often comes before any kind of political normalization.
Because if a startup in Addis starts to rely on a server in Berbera, as if it were just down the street, that border starts to feel a lot more porous. It's an interesting future to think about.
It creates a zone of mutual dependency. And in a region that can be volatile, mutual dependency can be a powerful stabilizing force.
A stabilizing force built out of glass fibers and beams of light. We will be watching very closely to see if they can hit those 2028 milestones. Thanks for helping us break this down.
My pleasure.
And thank you for listening. If you want to see the future of the region, don't just watch the politicians. Watch the cables. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.